This is a film study to focus on Jared Goff's Week 5 performance against the Bengals, a 37-24 win for the Lions. Goff is, of course, playing at an incredibly high level once again. 12 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 75% completion percentage for the year, which is his career high, by the way. It's almost like how high can he go there? It just keeps getting better every year. Definitely the yards per game are down, I think 237, but here lately especially, Detroit's defense has been getting turnovers, right, and creating short fields, so there's just not as many yards to gain. There's not as much field for Goff to take advantage of. His 120 quarterback rating is for the season is his career high as well. I'm going to have 3 different periods here, I guess 2 more after this, where I kind of stop and give commentary, and I will address the ridiculously low one-game grade that PFF applied to Jared Goff from Week 5. I have already addressed the first possession for the Lions and how much 12 personnel they used and some of the reasons why I think John Morton made those choices, basically to try to force Trey Hendrickson to line up away from Giovanni Manu, number 1. Number 2, to give Jared Goff high percentage opportunities to throw to the tight ends against the Bengals' base defense. But unfortunately, I think I have to go over some of those plays. I think I've got 3 here in order to set the stage for the evaluation of the whole thing. This is going to be a quite long video in case you can't tell. So this is a Tampa 2 flavor by the Bengals. I actually really like 3 of the coverages that they utilize to try to confuse Goff. I think it's quite obvious that they are trying to obfuscate the read for him pre-snap and then what it turns into post-snap. You kind of get a little bit of an idea of what they're trying to do here. If you ask me, it's the late completion to Jahmyr Gibbs into the flats. But I believe that Goff is initially trying to work the ball up here to St. Brown. And so because of the coverage that the Bengals have played, he doesn't feel like he can fit the throw over the top of this corner without that safety. Technically, it's the free safety at the beginning of the play, pre-snap, who then ends up in a half-field delineation. It's Jordan Battle. It's a really nice play, if you ask me, by Jahmyr Gibbs, obviously. Why does he get so many yards after the catch? Part of it is the coverage choice that the Bengals made. The Mike linebacker, Logan Wilson, is dropping in the middle of the field between the hash in a Tampa 2. A Tampa 2 is really a lie. It's really a cover 3. It's really a third defender assigned to the middle of the field, the Mike linebacker. In this case, because he's so deep, because the routes, the passing strength forced him to drop there, Jahmyr Gibbs makes the catch, and there's all this space to run onto. There's no supporting player there because of the passing strength declaration by the Bengals. So we're talking about Logan Wilson here. And by the way, since 2 tight ends are on the left-hand side for the Lions or the right-hand side of our screen, that forces Trey Hendrickson, who's typically the weak side guy, against 12 and 21 personnel. So brilliant, if you ask me, preparation by John Morton. In any case, you can see that Goff is definitely looking where St. Brown is down the field. I highlighted it from the all-22 angle. And because of the depth of the drop of Logan Wilson, once Jahmyr Gibbs catches this football, it's over. All he's got to do is make one guy miss, and he's really good at that. His yards per catch for 2025 still down. They were up in this game, but we know he's a guy who can turn nothing into something, and Goff's understanding and ability to get through reads quickly helps him get the ball out to, quote, wide open receivers more often than other quarterbacks do. Still on the first possession, this is where Morton's intentions are quite obviously revealed. The Bengals stay in a one-high look. If you recall on the previous play I showed you, they lined up one high and then shifted or motioned to Tampa 2 post-snap, or a hybrid Tampa 2. This is a play-action pass to Laporta against the tight end. So first of all, Jameson Williams generally is going to be spot shadowed in yellow. Amon-Ra St. Brown in blue. And yes, Jameson Williams did run a lot of clear-out routes. There's no doubt about that. You can see that if you don't have that safety who's spot shadowed in blue up here, let's say for a moment, let's say we can remove him from the equation, then yeah, of course, Jared Goff's going to take this shot. But he's got a higher percentage opportunity here with Sam Laporta really dusting Logan Wilson in coverage. Logan Wilson's a good football player. I'm a Ravens fan, so for me to say that, he must be a pretty good football player. But Ravens fans hate him, by the way. I just like to evaluate inside linebacker play independent of who the team is that the guy plays for. But in any case, the 2 tight ends are over here to the offense's left again, and you can see Hendrickson located on the other side. I actually had someone reach out to me via email after I did my first possession review on Monday, that saying, hey, they weren't trying to keep Hendrickson away from Manu. I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't. Why wouldn't you want Sewell on Hendrickson if you're John Morton? That's your job, to get the highest percentage opportunities possible. There's also a point there to be made about Jared Goff. So Logan Wilson, you can see, has been bumped by Sam Laporta creating a ton of space once the ball arrives. And this is one of the things that Goff kind of gets dinged for is, oh, he's throwing to wide open receivers. I just don't get it. It's his job to do so. It's great planning by Morton, and Goff recognizes the situations and takes advantage of them. He's committed to whatever they're doing. To me, it tells you a lot about the Lions team and that they're unselfish and they kind of don't care what anyone else thinks. I'm talking about really like Jameson Williams. Jameson Williams blocking his ass off, even though there's opportunities where you'd like to see him part of the read, actually getting the football instead of just running a clear out. Still in the first possession, and we'll see how Cincinnati tries to kind of adjust to this. And just the multiple presentations that Morton gave of the same formation, same personnel, and then the same formation. Trey left under center or Trey right under center. Trey left, in this case, 2 tight ends packaged next to each other and a wide receiver outside of those 2 tight ends. Really difficult to get this blocking scheme accomplished. It's a downhill run for the Lions. Jordan Battle in there. I think Geno Stone is in there. Dax Hill. So all of the DBs, as many as possible for Cincinnati to try to stop the run from Detroit. Bengals really loaded it up. But again, Morton, Goff, everyone on this team, they're committed to what they're going to do. The very next play, once again, 12 personnel, Trey left under center. It's a 2nd and 9, right? Because it was a short run by Gibbs on the previous snap. And we're still on the right hash, so now they're going to attack to the field, but it's with the pass, all right? Cincinnati kind of becomes hip to this game, this 12 personnel play action, but so you can see the 2 tight ends, Brown and St. Brown in short motion, and all clear outs aren't vertical. This is a horizontal clear out by St. Brown, I mean. So his route here in purple is basically going to clear out the space between the top of the numbers, between the bottom of the numbers and the hash for Laporta to run onto. Why? Because they've got Cincinnati's base defense on the field. And so just like when it was man for the matchup against Logan Wilson, now it's a defensive end. And so huge edge for the Lions, obviously, right? It's a horizontal clear out, if you ask me, just trying to open up that space for Laporta to run onto, and then he hurdles over Dax Hill, which is, just an amazing play for a tight end to make. Same play from the end zone angle. We'll speed through this kind of quick, but last time they'll try to make this point. 12 personnel controls where Hendrickson's going to be. It's just a matter of looking at the film from a John Morton standpoint, looking at the film and knowing how the Bengals line up when there's 2 tight ends on the field. There's Jameson Williams. He's occupying a corner following him, and then they're passing off a safety. You can kind of see Jordan Battle pointing to the other safety to take him over. I think Goff probably knew where he was going to go with this football at a certain point. I don't think Goff, he reads things. He reacts to things. But I think more often he's confirming. And I'll kind of explain that a little bit later on in the video. I mistakenly have this one labeled as first possession. I think it's actually the second possession. You can see they're still in 12 personnel, Trey left under center. Still getting a short motion by St. Brown. And he's running the over concept. You got a clear out route up at the top side by Isaac Tesla. Play action to Montgomery now. You can kind of tell it's the second possession because Montgomery's in and not Gibbs. I don't know about you. I'd kind of like to see him switch it up sometimes and put teams on the back foot, basically not be so predictable. But in any case, St. Brown is running the over concept, the deep over. Remember, he emanated from the left-hand side of the field, the bottom part of our screen. Goff is at the back of his drop. Clearly looking for St. Brown. I love this throw. It's a layered throw, but a horizontally layered throw. He's got to get it outside of the defensive end who's dropping. And from the end zone angle, I think it maybe gives it more justice or does more justice to what I'm talking about. The defensive end is dropping late. I do wonder if the Chiefs and some of these other teams are going to drop people intentionally late to kind of get them in some of these windows. So this is what I'm talking about. It's this defensive end that will drop. Laporta is here, and he's going to run across the screen. It's a left to right play for the offense, right to left, obviously from our perspective. But there's Laporta, right? And then St. Brown running the over. So I think Goff is looking for St. Brown first here. And then the reason why I really like this from a Goff perspective, this throw to Laporta, is that defensive end is the guy who's dropping late. Watch when Goff throws this. This really reminds me of a touchdown to Jameson Williams last year. I think in the middle of the field. I cannot remember the opponent, to be honest with you. But there's the defensive end. Goff's throwing it to Laporta, so there's a little bit of a pump fake. I think he sees it. He sees that defensive end dropping late. We're talking about this guy here. Brilliant completion to Sam Laporta, who was, obviously a big part of the game plan. They were slicing up Cincinnati's defense with Laporta, at least early. An 11 personnel set here on the second possession, 2nd and 9 after a short run play, I believe. And this is where I want to try to talk about some of the things with Goff where he gets dinged on or minimized his impact because he's, quote, throwing to wide open receivers. It's because he understands the coverage. It's because he understands how things are going to happen post-snap. And I think he deserves credit for that. In my opinion, numbers, PFF, do not do justice and cannot encapsulate what quarterbacks do. I can't encapsulate it for you. You should be looking at multiple sources to try to confirm or deny, your own thoughts about how Goff and how other players, performed in the course of a given game. This defensive end is going to drop out. A little bit of a shake slant by St. Brown. And then, unfortunately, I would categorize this as another clear-out route, basically, for Jameson Williams on a vertical. And he's getting impeded by, I think it's Dax Hill. But he's committing to the outside shoulder. Jameson Williams is unselfish, man. He's committed to the outside shoulder here. He understands what's happening. Goff's getting rid of this ball quick. This defensive end is dropping out. He kind of throws this behind where you would expect it. I called it a shake slant. I think it's supposed to be. I think it's supposed to be a shake slant in this direction. But since that defensive end dropped out, I believe Goff saw it, probably St. Brown as well. So kind of altered his route, if you will, into a short one. Just really quick recognition, adaptation, post-snap, if you will. It's also a great blitz pickup by David Montgomery. The same play from the end zone angle. Here's the defensive end that's going to drop out, like I said. The blitz pickup is this inside linebacker here. I think it's Knight. So they're bringing him on the same side as Trey Hendrickson. Stunting B.J. Hill inside. He's got a clean win, obviously, against Tate Ratledge. I think B.J. Hill is a real problem. If the Bengals season keeps going, downhill, he's a guy that I look at as a trade candidate for some team that's looking for a real quality, underrated defensive tackle who's got a little bit of versatility. Quick completion that Goff deserves credit for. I think that the time is gone when we should be talking about quarterbacks in a negative light because they get rid of the ball quick and because they're constantly throwing to wide open wide receivers. Like, how is that happening? It's not by chance. It's because the guy knows what he's doing and he knows the look that he's getting. It's maddening to me as someone week after week after week to continue to watch Lions film, Ravens film as well, and Seahawks film, but specific to Detroit here and Jared Goff, to watch the film every week and say, well, this must mean that he's a really good quarterback. Borderline great one if you want to go there. That's fine by me. Second possession, Detroit's marching down to make it 14-0. We know what this one is. It's the unfortunate sack by Hendrickson. You just can't leave him open in this way. I thought the announcers covered this well. Montgomery has got to be tagged onto this. You cannot leave Manu one-on-one with a guy of this caliber. There's only 4 or 5 of these in the NFL, Trey Hendrickson. He's a great football player, not a good one. So it's 4 verticals. I'm only showing you the interior 2. Jameson Williams in the tight end, so it's cover 3. I think Morton must have had an idea that the Bengals were going to drop out into cover 3. We're talking about this delineation here. So 4 verticals, cover 3 killer, generally. And so you'd want to get the ball to either one of those guys. Clearly, you'd think that it'd be Brock Wright. Corner is putting conflict up there. Oftentimes they're going to try to play what's called divider technique or maybe even just cheat, but it didn't matter. Trey Hendrickson, clean win against Manu around the edge to get the forced fumble. This moment kind of stunk because you felt like the blueprint was there for Detroit. They were throwing the ball well up to this point. Very unfortunate, right? You're going down to take a 2-touchdown lead. You just, in my opinion, for as great as the planning was, there needed to be some type of adjustment so that Manu was not left out there naked all alone against Trey Hendrickson. One more play before I'll go into a little bit of commentary about the grading of Goff and the way that his play is oftentimes interpreted to the best of my knowledge. So third possession, it's a 2nd and 5. Lions are still only up 7-0. So it's 12 personnel. The 2 tight ends are split out to the wide left and the wide right. I think that's Laporta at the top and Brock Wright at the bottom side of the screen. So what that has elicited from the Bengals is their base 4-3 personnel, 2 safeties, and then the 3 inside linebackers spot shadowed here in purple. So they've basically inverted things and made it to where the wide receivers, Jameson Williams and Amon-Ra St. Brown, can operate underneath with inside linebackers attached to them or trying to. And I think once again, you've got the Bengals dropping out into a Tampa 2 type look. And so when St. Brown catches this football, the Mike linebacker is really detached from all of this space. Are we going to criticize Jared Goff for the coverage that the Bengals played? Basically meaning, oh, everything he threw was yards after the catch. No shit, that's what you want. You want a safe play that's going to get you yards after the catch that's not as risky as some other. I have an idea about this that I want to expand on here in a moment, but the point here for me, the larger point is, they went in 12 personnel, manipulated the Bengals into reacting with their 4-3 base. And because Cincinnati stayed in a 2-high structure and played Tampa 2, we're not going to credit or we're going to discredit Goff for that. It probably is annoying to you guys how often I'm bringing this up at this point, but it bothers me to no end that we appear to be in a rush to minimize certain quarterbacks and elevate others. Because, that play does look like a 7-on-7, basically, which is just passing. No pass rush at all, no defensive line, no offensive line. I recognize that some people are not familiar, with what that is. 7-on-7 is quite self-explanatory. You remove the offensive lineman and defensive lineman from the equation entirely. Oftentimes you have the center over there just to practice either shotgun or under center snaps with the quarterback. The implication here for me is that some of these are easy throws. Well, how do you think that happens? The guy makes the right decisions based on what's presented. When I watch other quarterbacks, it kind of makes me wonder or reflect. Let's do it this way. If Goff didn't process things so quickly, if he wasn't so prepared for each particular moment, each concept, if he didn't so often get the offense in the most high percentage look, maybe post-snap, maybe he'd hold on to the ball a little longer. Maybe he'd have to hold on to the ball to let things develop. And maybe some of the windows he throws in would be tighter, and the throws would look more impressive. Now, you could also say, well, there'll be more interceptions, there'll be more sacks. But I offer to you that also perhaps there'll be more throws that would get into the window just before the defender gets there and look more impressive. Yes, I'm generalizing here, but in my opinion, Goff's ahead of the game to me. He's not processing during the play. He's confirming. I'll make an analogy here real quick that perhaps will work, perhaps won't. Think of it like the difference between walking down a dark hallway in your own home. You know the area, you know the landscape, you know where the light switch is, you know the table stand is on your right, and so you've got to avoid it when you walk down the hall. You don't want to wake everybody else up. Compare that to, visiting family or something that you don't know the area. You might bump into things in the middle of the night or make noise, or you may compensate and walk slow, right? And I guess my analogy will break down in modern times because you could pull out your flashlight and, of course, see things. So that doesn't help there. But the point here for me is that I'm trying to make Goff's always operating on familiar ground as much as possible. He's ahead of the processing because he knows pre-snap what to expect. I won't normally go over this many plays, but I quite intentionally picked, I think, 14 or 15 plays to display how Goff was playing at a high level, even on some of his incompletions. So this is one of them. It was 19 of 23 passing, so there were only 4, right? This is 12 personnel, no surprise there, on the third possession, on a 2nd and 11. So it's going to be a dig from St. Brown. That's the target, the purple line there. And once again, for the 4th or 5th time, Jameson Williams just basically on a clear-out route to open up that space for St. Brown to run onto. Motion across from Laporta creates basically what looks like a 3 by one side, but eventually it becomes 4 to a side. So there's no route down here on the bottom side of the field at all. Don't have a problem with that. Some people call it 4 strong, whatever, but here's the clear out route by Jameson Williams. There's the route that Goff is throwing. And because there's no route at the bottom side of the screen, like I just kind of illustrated to you, that's Geno Stone, maybe a little bit difficult to see because of his jersey color, and he's actually in the middle of the logo in the middle of the field for the Bengals. But you can see him moving. He's got himself oriented to that trip side, the top side of our screen. And when Goff throws this football, he breaks on it. He's not there quick enough to make an interception. I do wonder if this ball is one that, maybe Goff, under normal circumstances, would have thrown a little bit further out in front. But because of Stone's presence, I'm giving Goff a lot of leeway here, obviously, but because of Stone's presence, he kind of held this throw back a little bit and didn't lead him into that defender. I don't know that to be the case. This is one of 2 balls in the game where I suspect that, where he maybe threw it behind St. Brown intentionally to protect him or keep him away from a defender. Hopefully I said that in a way that makes sense. I don't have any idea how other people who evaluate quarterback play have talked about that play. Don't take mine as the sole arbiter of how it should be interpreted. Consider it one of many sources for yourself and make up your own mind. So that's Jameson Williams on the clear out route, like I said. And then Goff is throwing the ball in the middle, and you can see what I mean, hopefully, in that normally St. Brown will be able to run onto these types of routes, these dig routes, but in this case, Goff almost, to me, intentionally seems like he threw it behind him. Now let's pull it back a little bit and try to determine, did Goff have the actual opportunity to see this guy? I mean, come on. Like, Goff's not blind, number one. He's got great vision. He's done this millions of times in his career. To me, you can actually watch his head turn a little bit. Talking about his helmet. You can see it turn to our right and then come back to the left. To me, I know there's a famous video of that as well, but that's obviously of a more serious nature than what we're talking about. But the point is, he definitely saw Geno Stone, in my opinion, and tried to keep the throw away from Stone so that he couldn't deck his best offensive asset, Amon-Ra St. Brown. You're more than welcome to have a different interpretation or tell me if you think I'm wrong. So very next play, 3rd and 11, like I said, on the 3rd possession. And it's a really cool coverage by the Bengals that I've already saved and I'd like to talk about. It's what I would consider to be like an invert Tampa 2 or a hybrid. So Battle is lined up close to the box, making it look like maybe he would be man on Montgomery, but I don't think they're really selling that. And then the outside corner, which I think is CTB, Cam Taylor-Britt, is going to drop to a half-field safety delineation post-snap. So to me, there seems to be this very obvious attempt by the Bengals to give Goff looks post-snap that maybe he wasn't prepared for pre-snap. I'm trying to basically say or convince to you that those are 2 half-field safeties. And then you've got this switching dynamic of Dax Hill and Geno Stone, whereby Hill is becoming the dropper in between the hashes. I could be wrong here, to be honest with you, but feel free to let me know in the comment section if other people have broken it down better than I have. I think they've got the Lions here. The Lions are running mesh. So I think they're expecting a different coverage, and Cincinnati has given them what I would consider a Tampa 2. Flat defender here, who obviously did carry that route a little bit longer. Half-field defender, Mike linebacker in the middle of the field, Dax Hill. Why am I bringing all this up and belaboring the point? They're trying to give Goff a different look post-snap because they know he's so great at understanding things pre-snap. The Bengals deserve credit here. It ends up in a sack as well that forces a punt. As an aside, myself and Edgar Allen, who's a Ravens content creator, we do a project each week called Inside the Coverage on the Ravens. Picked a very poor year to focus on the Ravens coverages, right? We do that every week, and we focus on the Ravens coverages. In the offseason, I would love to be able to do something like that for the Lions. I wish that I had a equal partner to do that with for the Lions. So if you know of anyone who would be interested in something like that, I would love to produce something like that for the Lions, like on Thursday each week, just because I'm only one person. At this point in time, there's a mountain of film to get to try to produce something like that. If you have any suggestions or anyone that you know of who might be interested, feel free to let me know in the comment section or reach out to me through email or on my Discord. Moving forward, 4th possession, we're into the 2nd quarter, and really cool play call to open up the drive. It's a fake toss. St. Brown's going to go in motion all the way across, faking the toss. I think Goff sells it pretty well. It's difficult to fake toss. I mean, nobody sees the ball tossed out there, right? It's a little brown leather football, and nobody sees it tossed out there. But it definitely sells this guy and definitely sells Geno Stone. All you got to do is sell him enough so that Penei Sewell can get out and go block the one defender who kind of widened up with the motion by St. Brown. So we're talking about this OLB, D-end, and then Sewell working out into the space. Really great play call to open up a drive. It's irregular, right? It's not a direct flow run play. It's not a direct drop back. It is a play action, but the timing of it is differential, if you ask me, in that it's not play action and then Goff getting back in his drop, either a straight drop back off play action. He's faking the toss and then immediately throwing the screen out there. And you got 1, 2 offensive linemen trying to decide, okay, do I get out in front or do I just peel back? I think it's Glasgow kind of peeling back on maybe Hendrickson. They're great at this. I love the play call, especially to open a drive. 6th possession now. We've moved into the 3rd quarter. Hopefully I have all that information correct. But in any case, the Lions are up 14-3. We know Cincinnati got a field goal to end the second quarter. And St. Brown is going to be running kind of in the middle of the field. Oh, by the way, it's out of 12 personnel. Trey Wing under center. Short motion, play action. You can see the timing that I'm talking about. It's a little bit more elongated. And oftentimes, I made this point in another video. I don't know if it was Lions related or not. Oftentimes, running backs will be slightly deeper on play action. Why? Because they want to force the second-level defenders to be in conflict longer. Basically, see, okay, is the ball actually handed off or not? So if you line the running back up slightly deeper, then that elongates or lengthens that amount of time by which the defenders have to try to consider it. In any case, this is a really great job by Logan Wilson, and I think that's Geno Stone, but I could be wrong. Basically bracketing over under the route by St. Brown. Hopefully it's not too staccato or too broken up when I go slow forward like that. I'm running it through an internet-based browser, so I recognize that it's not as smooth as just watching it on my actual screen. Hopefully on your end it's not too bad. But as a result of that being covered up, I'm talking about that route from St. Brown, Goff is kind of pushed off of his spot a little bit. Goff is pushed off of his spot from the timing, and then it ends up being one of his 4 incomplete passes, this one to Laporta. 3 more plays here, and then I will have some commentary overall on Goff's play, and then the PFF grading, as well as how he's oftentimes interpreted by people across the football analyst universe. 3rd and 7 from that same possession in the third quarter, and you got a pony set, 21 personnel with Montgomery and Gibbs in the backfield. The lone tight end is Sam Laporta. Down at the bottom side, you've got Jamison Williams. You knew it already. Basically running a clear-out route so St. Brown can run this kind of pseudo-dig, deeper in-cut underneath. It's a great throw by Goff, in my opinion. As an aside to that, Jahmyr Gibbs releasing to that side, which basically creates like a trip set post-snap. And so Gibbs is going to kind of sit under. St. Brown runs over the top. And so really putting this second-level defender in conflict. I think one of the reasons why Cincinnati was playing so much Tampa 2, I'm not saying that this is a Tampa 2, it's that they were able to open up the Mike linebacker to those deeper, later developing dig routes by St. Brown. And I think some of the plays I've illustrated for you already have kind of made that point without me saying it explicitly. But here you go. And Goff knows it. It's a 3rd and 7. He throws it anyway. And again, I think he throws it underneath of the defender or outside of him to kind of hold St. Brown so St. Brown doesn't run onto that space. He doesn't want St. Brown to run into the Mike linebacker. Basically, to me, to sit and say some of Goff's throws were off target is really, really ignorant. He's doing it on purpose to protect St. Brown from a defender in coverage that he saw, he being Goff. I may be wrong. You may not agree with my interpretation of it, but that's what I'm sticking with. So same play from the end zone angle. I mean, look, you don't think Goff sees this? That's Tampa 2. That is a Tampa 2 technique by the Mike linebacker. Now, Wilson is also mugged up on the line, so he's got to get depth. He turns his back to go. Goff sees it, in my opinion. Here's the clear-out route by Jamison Williams. Oh, by the way, it's another blitz pickup from David Montgomery out on the edge. Right here, it's a corner blitz, in fact. And then there's the throw to the inside. One of the few times that you'll ever see St. Brown kind of catch it twice or not catch it in the instant the ball hits his hands. More than just Goff. It's more than just Jared Goff as a quarterback in the NFL that does this, okay? Multiple quarterbacks throw it to protect their guy against particular coverages. In this case, we have an inside leverage defender, Logan Wilson, and then Goff throwing it in a location, in my opinion, to, number one, get the completion, number 2, protect his player, St. Brown. And I think that's one of the reasons why, twice in this game, you see St. Brown catch it, but not catch it instantly the way we're all accustomed to. After that conversion, this is a 2nd and 14. Of course, this is the screen for a touchdown to Jahmyr Gibbs. So it's inverted. 11 personnel, St. Brown's in the backfield. Gibbs as the wide receiver set to the field. Going to motion Laporta across. And what that's going to do is it's going to create 3 defenders to the field against 2. It really ends up being a 4-on-4. But initially, the initial blocking scheme here is 2 blockers for 2 defenders. And then you just cannot leave Gibbs with this much space post-catch, right? So, again, I think this speaks to one of the reasons why Goff apparently gets discredited by PFF and other organizations, which is everything is after the catch. Well, that's the design of the play. It's a great play call on 2nd and 14. What do you want him to do? Drop back and pass and give Hendrickson an opportunity to rush the quarterback? Give him something irregular like, I don't know, another screen to a guy who's great at making people miss. And I think you've got a really fantastic job by Christian Mahogany here. He's the only offensive lineman, who releases. You've got 2 offensive linemen, the left tackle, Manu, and the center, Glasgow, who cut or chop down defensive linemen. And so that just means there's going to be less guys to pursue from an inside-out leverage, or inside-out angle, I should say. Gibbs powers into the end zone. Functionally, the game's probably over here at 21-3. It's a brilliant call. Make them defend something on the perimeter that is irregular. Remove their post-snap coverage switches, if you will, from the equation entirely. It ends up being Laporta and Tesla out in front. Here's what I'm talking about with the offensive line. Manu will cut Hendrickson. The center will cut this defensive tackle, and Mahogany releases out. After stuttering momentarily, you can see the impact that it had. Hendrickson on the ground trying to sprawl. This guy did a little bit better job sprawling. Mahogany gets out in front right here. Critical that it creates a 4-on-4. You can see the 4 Bengals jerseys there, Gibbs, and then the 3 blockers, Laporta, Tesla, and Mahogany. Amazing play call. I think that we shouldn't decrease Goff's impact on her, his ability to recognize, okay, hey, this is there. There's another universe that exists where the Bengals line up in a different coverage, and we just don't throw that ball in at all because they have requisite numbers to defend it. This will be the last play that I'll go over and then give you a little bit of a summary comment on some of the things that are out there on Goff and the way he plays specifically this week. 7th possession, it's an under center, and we're going to go play action on a 1st and 10. So Cincinnati is basically creating a 6-2 front. So they walked one of the inside linebackers up right here, momentarily creating a 6-1, and then Battle will get into the box, if you will. Why? Because it's an I formation. So they've taken one of the tight ends and lined him up at fullback. It's Brock Wright. They're faking F counter. So they're faking a run play to the top side of our screen, the left side of the offense. And the Bengals bite on it pretty hard with Battle, the safety, because he's reading the block by Laporta. So he sees that block occur and then visually kind of ignores him. This is Jamison Williams here. I do think there's an opportunity to maybe get him the football over the top, but you can't criticize Goff for taking the sure completion to a guy running out in space. And then the point I want to make, because I know it's been a big discussion dynamic for Lions fans this week, is this guy's still blocking. He's still playing football. In fact, both him and St. Brown are. They're not getting the ball on the play. This is the standard. This is what they have. This is not... They're not going to deviate from this. I don't expect Jamison Williams could probably go without a target for 2 or 3 weeks. He's still going to be out here blocking. It's not devastating stuff, but he's trying to get in the way, in my opinion. Him and St. Brown, maybe they don't appear to be cut from the same cloth. They're being made from the same cloth in Detroit, and it just doesn't faze me at all. Or it doesn't surprise me at all, to see him out there blocking in front and doing a pretty good job of it. I find, I'll be honest with you, I generally don't focus on PFF grades at all. I know I've talked about them 6 or 8 times in this video. It's because I find it to be the lowest bar of analysis available. It's just a number that, with no context, and no one gives any consideration. It, to me, is a very shallow pool. And when you get stuck in that pool, there's just nothing else. You're not going to learn how to swim, which is think independently in this analogy. When I watch a game like this one, and I get an impression from someone's play, and then have awareness of the stats. I think immediately at the end of the game when I do my reaction videos, I look up the stats. Goff was 19 of 23. Okay, that fit. I thought there was one incompletion there that maybe could have been a catch by St. Brown, but that's the one that I believe he's protecting St. Brown from exposure against Geno Stone. And I have awareness of the game situation, and then I hear, I think it's Monday, that Goff was rated a 68. You're telling me that 30 professional analysts, which is what PFF claims, looks at each game. 30 professional analysts looked at that game, double-checked, triple-checked. What is 30th? 30th checked this and thought that Goff only played at a 68 level out of what I guess would be 100. He is 19 of 23, 258 yards, 3 touchdowns, 153 quarterback rating. along with whatever work he did pre-snap to ensure the Lions were in the right look. I don't know all that he did. I know that there was a significant amount. The defensive prep for the Bengals and for each week, I think he does a great job. Live, he played extremely well, very composed, made accurate throws. I think he's operating at a high level. The way it gets justified is he didn't have to do much. This is all done for him. It's all yards after the catch. He's got a great offensive line. He's protected. Sometimes I'm reminded of, I don't know which McKenna brother it was that said it, but it's a very short reaction. This is shit-brained. It's cultural diversion. And I know that they were talking about larger issues than a quarterback grade, from one game from PFF. I get it. But to me, it fits. Because it offers such a low bar to people trying to understand quarterback play. I'm in the same boat, okay? I'm trying to understand quarterback play, but I'm not intentionally jumping into a shallow pool. I'm trying to be in the ocean and understand as much as possible. And there's guys who played the position in the NFL level and even lower than that, or coached at a much higher level than I did, and they know it all. So check with them as well. For Goff to have such a consistently low rating from that organization is I want to say surprising and disappointing, but it's really neither. If that's the industry standard for one-game grades, then we're really talking about a race to the bottom mentality, if you ask me, in terms of football analysis. And I've kind of held on to my thoughts on that organization and the way that they do things for a long time. I would recommend for you watching any of the high-level analysts who evaluate quarterback play through video form, not just numerical, but video form, showing you the film and breaking it down with their words when you're talking about Jared Goff, and see what they say. Because I don't have time to watch it. I'm talking about Kurt Warner, JT Sullivan. I forget the guy that's on Twitter who was a former Packers and 49ers backup, but he's super brilliant and intelligent. I would hope that they would help you distill it down to some type of truth for what the reality is. Now, I have my own opinion, and I think I suspect it would line up with theirs, which is Jared Goff is as good as any quarterback in the NFL right now. Not as mobile, sure, not as athletic, but he's a guy that gets things done consistently every week. I don't know what it's going to look like this week against the Chiefs, but that's my analysis for Week 5 against the Bengals. I would say I'm disappointed in global football analysts, or analysis that is pushed out there from PFF, but I can't be disappointed. I'm just not surprised at all. Appreciate you guys' time.